going to introduce a local author. I'm very excited to introduce Christine Chitnis. She's a local author who's written several articles as well that have appeared in Country Living, the Boston Globe, and Edible Roadie. Christine, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course, this is exciting. I've been looking forward to setting this up for quite some time, so we're glad.
We're good to be here.
So glad to have you. So you've written a few books. This one, Icy, Creamy, Healthy, Sweet. Some of your other books, Little Bites and Markets of New England. So tell me a little bit about this book. It's gorgeous. I was flipping through it. Just kind of some of your inspiration behind it.
Sure. So I have 2 young kids, and I found, especially as a mom, but also as someone who's really health conscious, that sugar is everywhere. It's in everything. And everything. And it seems like everyone wants to feed your kids sugar too. So every birthday party, I was dying. Even my dentist wants to hand them a lollipop. So I really started to figure out how to make them healthy treats that weren't full of white refined sugar, and instead relied on natural sweeteners. And I wanted to kind of focus on frozen treats because it really celebrates kind of summer and summery days at the beach. And so this is all popsicles, ice cream, frozen yogurt, granadas. So it's just a lot of fun. It's all relying on these natural sweeteners. So you don't get that hit of refined white sugar that's going to spike your blood sugar and kind of give you those jitters and ultimately just not be a healthy choice.
And we were going back and forth on email, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying so hard to cut out sugar, and it's impossible because you go and you find sugar in pretzels, you find it in crackers, you find it added in everything. So
even ketchup. That's why kids love ketchup.
It's
full of sugar.
It's full of sugar. And it's addicting. So it's kind of nice. Talk to me a little bit about this book. It is absolutely gorgeous, and you do not only the writing and the recipes and stuff, but you take pictures too as well, right?
I do, yeah. So this was really my baby, all the way from, like you said, the recipe development, the concept, the recipe development, the photography, and the writing. And so I really started with the seasons. I made a list of all the fruits of each season. I made a list of herbs, different flavors such as vanilla. And then I started figuring out how they would pair well together. And then from there, I figured out the way which they would best come through in a dessert. So was it going to be an ice cream? Was it going to be a popsicle? Was I going to roast the fruit? Was I going to grill it? I even grill fruit. So it was really starting to figure out how best to showcase these, because fruit itself is naturally sweet. So how do we showcase all these beautiful flavors in the best way possible? And then from there, started developing the recipes behind it. There's 75 recipes in the book, and I would say that I probably developed a total of 110 recipes, and then the best 75 made the cut. So, and what I love too is I also used graduates from Johnson & Wales and other culinary institutes to test the recipes for me. So I had recent graduates and kind of friends in the food industry with the culinary background make sure that they were well written and easy to follow, and that everything lined up at the end. So they're well tested, and that was kind of a fun part too, to see others out in the world making it and having good results with them.
Okay, so you had the expert opinions, but also were the other experts your kids? Because I mean, on one hand, isn't that you have the expert, Johnson & Wales folks who are definitely experts, but when it comes to who's eating certain things, kids are really experts, right?
Definitely. So it's fun. We live on the east side, and we have our street is full of young kids, and they got to know that there were always popsicles in the freezer. So I feel like I would open my door and there'd be about 20 little kids coming in and grabbing popsicles from the freezer because they always knew they were in there. And the parents were pretty okay with it because they knew they were full of good things. And the parents would marvel. They'd say, I can never get my kids to eat, some different fruit and herb combination. And then they come to your house and they'll try it. And some of it's in a fun form. I even make my own those squeezy ices.
Oh, awesome.
And I know when we were kids, we'd have them there full of all kinds of red dye and blue dye and crazy sugar. And I make them just with pure fruit and natural sweeteners, and they go like wildfire at my house. So yeah, my kids are definitely a big influence, and definitely probably my harshest critics too. When they don't like it, they're very honest with me.
So tell us a little bit about what you brought for us today, and then we'll go into some other things.
Sure.
And tell us kind of how you developed some of this stuff. You kind of touch base with it. Because when you're experimenting and digging into stuff, how much of it is just trying things out?
Definitely. So there's some things that always pair well together. So in the beginning of spring, which we're here now, rhubarb is the first kind of sign that spring is here, and it pairs beautifully with strawberries. They come up in the garden at the same time. I think when you look to the seasons, and I'm a community gardener, I garden at Martin Luther King Elementary School, and I just look at what's coming up in the garden, and often they'll pair so well together. So yes, so strawberries, it does. It makes a lot of sense. I feel like when you let nature kind of guide you, she pretty much, Mother Nature has it figured out. So here we have fresh rhubarb and some honey, which again, honey's going to bring out that really kind of spring floral sweetness, which I love. That's something I love about natural sweeteners too. They bring their own flavor. So when you're working with white refined sugar, it's just sweet. There's really no flavor profile. There's no kind of excitement behind the sweetness. But when you're working with maple syrup or dates or honey, they all bring to the table a really interesting flavor. So whenever I start a recipe, I really think, what kind of flavor sweetness do I want? And for this, I wanted that kind of spring or flowery sweetness that honey provides. And then from there, I stewed down. So rhubarb on its own is actually pretty tart. So it really needs to be stewed down with some sweetness. So I scraped in a vanilla bean and drizzled it with honey, finely chopped it, and brought it to a simmer in a saucepan until the rhubarb was really tender. Oh, it smelled so good in the kitchen. And it was kind of falling apart. And at that time, I scooped it into the bottom of the mold and then topped it with some vanilla flecked frozen yogurt. And that's really just Greek yogurt sweetened with a little bit of honey. So that's super easy. And hopefully they haven't gotten too melty. We can show you what they look like.
Oh, this is great.
It's getting a little melty. But so you can see the beautiful hues of the rhubarb kind of throughout. And then I love when I do popsicles, the visual appeal. You know, there's so much visual appeal to me. So sometimes I'll do stripes. Sometimes I'll do it like this. Sometimes I dip a chopstick in and kind of swirl it so you get a marbled effect with the popsicles. And of course that just kind of adds to the fun and really shows people, kind of show off your skills. So that's what this is. This is, you can actually see, I mean, we can see it, hopefully everyone else can too, but you can see the vanilla flecks in there, and that's from a vanilla bean. You're just going to scrape out the seeds, stew it with that rhubarb, and again, a little bit of honey. And then you can use vanilla yogurt, plain yogurt sweetened with a little honey. It's really your choice what you're going to top it with. Here I went with plain Greek yogurt. Again, I stirred in a little bit of honey, used that vanilla, and topped it with that. And then you're going to pop it in the freezer for a couple hours until it's nice and hard. And if it's if you need to get them out, run it under cold water, pop them out, or on hot days, they'll just slide right out.
Yeah, this took only a few minutes to thaw out in our studio.
I know. Who would have thought it'd be 80 degrees out today? It's the perfect day to talk about popsicles.
It is. So. No, we're going to be like, yeah, in the back. How long does it take to make something like this?
So this was really fast. I mean, this is a chopping, throw it in the saucepan. I would say these came together in probably 10 to 15 minutes.
That's it, really?
Yep, so you're stewing, the rhubarb is going to kind of maybe 3 to 5 minutes over a medium-low heat. And then from there, it's really, you're just kind of letting it cool for a minute, scooping it into your molds, topping it with yogurt, and stick it in the freezer. So they're really fast to make. A lot of people have this kind of misconception that, like, you make your own popsicles, how much time do you have on your hands? I got 2 kids, I have a job, I work, so I'm not into fussy desserts, and they really take about 15 minutes in your kitchen.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, this looks really fancy.
Yeah, no.
Who really wants to spend the time? It's so easy to just go to the store and buy a carton of ice cream, to go buy a carton of popsicles, and here you go. And take it out like that. And I think
something else too to consider, because it is pretty fast, but you can also tailor it to your needs. So if you don't have, if you're not someone who eats dairy, I have a recipe in the book for cashew cream. It's a nut-based cream that you can make that kind of mimics the creaminess of yogurt. If you have nut allergies, I have other alternatives. So in the book, I give you the tools to create these no matter what restrictions you might have around your eating. Be that gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan. There's recipes that are going to satisfy everyone in this book. So that's kind of a fun thing too. When you make it on your own, you can, and the other thing is you can make sure that the ingredients are kind of up to your standards. So I love to shop at the Hope Street Farmers Market, get ingredients from my garden, and then I know what I'm feeding myself and my family is super fresh. I'm supporting local businesses, and the ingredients are really high quality. So that's important too.
Yeah, and I like where you're going with that. Talk to us a little bit about providing not only your kids and your family with fresh ingredients. But talk to us about working with local growers around here, because you've written tons of articles for different publications and working with local growers around Rhode Island.
Sure. So I contribute to Edible Roadie pretty much every issue, and it's probably one of my favorite jobs here, definitely one of my favorite writing gigs. And really it's about getting out in the community, meeting our different growers, and really investing in that local economy. And a lot of people will say, gosh, it's really expensive to shop at the farmer's market. But if you look at the true cost of food, and this is a really big topic, but when you get rid of all that processed food and all the stuff that's kind of making us sluggish and sick and all of that, and you look at that true cost behind the food, that fast food, what is the true cost? It makes you feel better about spending a few extra dollars to get that really high quality food, again, and keeping it in the local economy. So we're not sending it off to, wherever that other food's coming from, or, all of the truckloads of strawberries that are coming from thousands of miles away. What's the environmental impact behind that? And so I really feel strongly about supporting our farms in Rhode Island, and we're lucky because we're such a small state that we have this amazing food system, and everyone knows each other. The restaurant owners know the farmers, and the farmers, they know the small food producers, and it's just this great community, and they all really support each other. And so I think as consumers and people who live in Rhode Island and love what's going on in the food scene, it's really our job to support them too. So I always suggest get out to your farmer's market, and maybe you can't afford to shop there for your entire week's groceries, but invest in one thing. Get some fresh peaches instead of buying them at the market that week. And that one little thing will go a really long way.
And we have, what's interesting, I think, is for such a small state, we have such a diversified amount of crops here.
We do.
I mean, you can really get so many different types of products. It's amazing. You can get one thing from one part of the state and go somewhere else and get something totally different. It's really amazing just what there is in Rhode Island. What there
Definitely. And also just our market. So I wrote a whole book on markets all across New England, and I have to say our Hope Street Farmers Market, I went from Maine to Vermont and all over, and it was really one of the best. And what I love is you can go up, you can get prepared food. So if you're hungry, it's like grab breakfast at the market. I take my kids, and then you can get your breads, your meats, your eggs, your cheeses, and all your produce. So it's a pretty incredible market. I think a lot of people, they can go and say, okay, I can get my lettuce and my produce here, but I can't get really good bread, or I can't get really good meat. And we're super lucky because our market is so diverse in what we're offering here in such a small state too.
So you like the Hope Street Farmers Market. Is there other places that you like to go around the state to find certain things or certain people that you like to visit?
Definitely. So
you're getting products from everywhere. I mean, you're making everything.
Yeah. Well, I love Narragansett Creamery. It has great yogurt. So if you're looking for a good locally produced yogurt, that's I love them. We love to take the kids and go to Sweetberry Farm. And we make
fun there too, right?
I know.
So
we make a whole day
out on out on their lawn or
get some food and then go berry picking, and so we love that. And I'd say when we make it out to that part of the state, that's one of our first stops in the summer. And so I think probably those two. We always are looking up fun places to go apple picking and pumpkin picking. But I would say we spend a lot of time in my garden too. So it's walkable for us, which is huge. My kids take their scooters and we scoot right to the garden. And I grow enough tomatoes, lettuce, sweet peas, radishes to keep my family fed in this small little 6x9 plot. It's amazing. And I think the community behind it and the group of people I've met, it's been incredible. So for those of us with little postage stamp backyards, it's kind of a way to grow our own food and just kind of feel empowered in that way. So that's kind of one of my favorite things about our neighborhood.
Yeah, that's really neat. You see more and more lots of community gardens down in the Gano Street area, the place that you have, more of that popping up, and you hear just different restaurants also having their own gardens. That's getting more of that.
And schools too. That's the other thing that's so great. Schools have their own school garden. MLK uses our garden, and we have plots that are specifically the students plant.
That's really neat.
So really introducing those kids to the concept of where their food comes from, and I think that's key too.
Do you think that more people have that desire to know where their food is coming from, and so books like this are going to become more popular and more people are going to want to get involved? Are you seeing more of that trend just when you're out talking to people, whether it's at farmers markets or whether you're out doing articles? Do you feel like that trend is becoming more and more so?
I do. I think it's huge right now. I think people are feeling the importance of becoming really educated about our food system because we've seen the effects of what it looks like when we're not kind of tuned into it. We had, the 60s and the 70s and even into the 80s where it was all about convenience. It was like microwave meals and everything out of a box and everything out of a can. And we really saw kind of the health costs to that. And I think now we're kind of slowing down and taking a look at what does it mean to, know where our food comes from? What does it mean to sit down to a family meal? And how is that impacting the next generation? How are we fighting this childhood obesity epidemic? We're fighting it by sitting down with our kids and making dinner and eating with them. And again, I'm a working parent. I get home at 5 o'clock, but you can always whip up something quick. One of my go-tos is an egg sandwich. I do really good bread from 7 Stars, fresh eggs, some good cheese and some veggies. I like to throw in spinach or some fresh tomatoes. And there's dinner, and it took 10 minutes, but it's nutritious and it's high quality ingredients, and I'm tired, but dinner was on the table in 10 minutes and my kids love it. So I think just kind of taking the pressure off. Cooking doesn't always have to be fancy, but it takes a little bit of planning, a little bit of effort, and then just sitting down at that family table and kind of getting back to what does real food look like.
Wonderful. And just as we wrap things up, you're going to be somewhere tomorrow where people can come meet you, chat with you, and sign books, right?
I am. So I'm going to be at the Eat Drink Rhode Island Festival at the Convention Center, and I'm really excited about it. There's a lot of different authors. I happen to be on at 1:45. I will have treats, so everyone should come. I'm making homemade fudgesicles.
Oh,
so
nice.
They're going to be really good. I can promise that. And so we'll be talking about all things about the book, but also just kind of food in general in Rhode Island, and I think it's going to be a blast, and I hear there's tons to eat there, and
so
you will leave very full. So come with an empty stomach.
Great. Well, Christine Chitnis, thank you so much for joining us, local author here in Rhode Island, and we appreciate you joining us for a conversation on all things healthy snacks, especially